It's time for my morning review. This is where I give you a few stories that just might be of interest to you as you go on about your day. The first story comes out of Mexico. It looks as though the media there in Mexico is telling everyone that they are experiencing some civil unrest, they're calling it. So it looks like Mexican officials, along with probably some help from the United States, has done away with one of the cartel leaders. I ain't even going to try to pronounce the fellow's name because I just screw it up and y'all just laugh at me. They call this guy El Mancho. With the name, it sounds like he should have starred in an old Clint Eastwood spaghetti western. But anyway, the dude isn't breathing anymore. And a lot of his supporters are not real happy about it. They have caused considerable unrest in 20 of Mexico's 32 states. I didn't even know Mexico had states. It looks like El Mancho's supporters have taken a page from the playbook from a lot of American civil unrest, and they burned a lot of buildings and cars, all in an attempt to get the government authorities from going in and cleaning house from Mancho's supporters. And it seems as though a lot of governments around the world are putting travel bans on their citizens, warning them not to go into Mexico, especially in a lot of tourist spots like Puerto Vallarta. I think Puerto Vallarta was one of those places that they used to give trips away to on a lot of those game shows when I was a little kid. Anyway, if you're at any one of those vacation resort areas, our government has put a shelter in place warning. No shit, shelter in place when all the chaos is going on. You can't leave. What else do you have to do? For whatever it's worth, I got a word for all those El Mancho supporters. I'm pretty sure the Mexican government doesn't play by the same rules that the United States government does, and it's probably not going to end well for you. So let's move on now to that snowstorm that's hitting the Northeast. Most of y'all, if you're listening to me or watching me out there in the Northeast, you probably already know that you all been dumped on by Mother Nature. One of the largest snowstorms in recent memory has dumped on y'all. News outlets are telling us that snow is being measured in feet, not inches. So here's a few of my takes about that snowstorm. My first take is that y'all's mayor up there, Mayor Mamdani, apparently is asking for workers to come and shovel snow. In order to qualify as a snow shoveler, you have to submit a couple of forms of ID. Requiring an ID to shovel snow, but not asking for ID when it comes to voting, it just seems a little strange to me. The second point of interest is the amount of snow. This is said to be one of the largest snowstorms in over 100 years. Before global warming, in fact. 100 years ago, most everyone was heating with coal or oil, and they still had a big old snowfall, which is really weird to me. I'm old enough to have lived through a couple of renditions of global warming. They first called it global cooling. Back when I was in the 8th grade, we were all going to freeze to death. Now it seems as though we're supposed to be burning up. The ice caps are supposed to be melting, according to Al Gore. And in a very weird twist to me, global warming is supposed to bring on weird weather events like this snow. Global warming and snow? The biggest snow in 100 years? So in the final analysis, I'm not really sure what global warming has to do with any of these weather events. But you can make up your own mind. And finally, there's going to be a whole lot of talk moving forward about that tariff decision made by the Supreme Court. Contrary to a lot of other commentators, the Supreme Court did not overrule tariffs. They merely overruled the law that President Trump used to enact his tariffs. For those of you that don't know, President Trump used an early 1970s law to enact his tariffs. The law is commonly called IEEPA. It's an Emergency Energy Act, and it has allowed presidents to enact certain tariffs during times of an emergency. It's been used before. But apparently 4 of our Supreme Court justices said The law does not expressly permit a president to use tariffs. Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett sided with the three usual Democrats to say that President Trump does not have the authority under that particular act. But all justices conceded that President Trump does have the right to enact a tariff. And in Trump-like fashion, he responded with a 10% global tariff on everybody in the whole damn world. So the question becomes, how are these new tariffs going to affect you and me? They're probably not going to affect you and me to any large degree, because the price of tariffs have already been baked into everything that you and I buy and sell today. If you remember, during Liberation Day a few months ago, when President Trump first let out all these tariffs, every commentator, Republican and Democrat alike, were telling us how the economy was going to crash, how it was going to be the end of times. Well, if you look around, it's not the end of times. The stock market hasn't crashed. In fact, we've seen significant gains. Inflation has gone down, and that wasn't supposed to happen under these big old tariffs. So in my opinion, this 10% global tariff ain't going to be no big deal. But let me know what you all think in the comments. And stick around for my morning show between 7 and 10 o'clock this morning, and let's talk about your life and the law.